Okay, this is 7-1D, and it's indirect measurement. You should have your worksheet in front of you. It's 7-1D, the skills practice worksheet. And I'm just going to go through these 6 questions, and hopefully by the time it's over, you will understand how to solve these problems. There's 2 keywords that I want you to write down that let you know what you're looking for. One keyword is similar. And the other keyword is proportion. So you know that whenever you see these words, similar, proportion, you're going to actually set up a proportion. That's your step to solving these problems. So if we were going to write down the steps, step number 1 would be to set up a proportion. Okay, and when you set up your proportion, you have to make sure that all your numbers are in the correct space. You can't just set up the proportion any way you want. You have to make sure that they're in the correct spot. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with number 1. The directions say in exercises 1 through 6, the triangles are similar. So there's our keyword. Write a proportion, there's our second keyword, and solve the problem. So for instance, if you look at number 1, I'm just going to continue right here underneath. It says, how tall is Becky? And what they did was, actually I'm not, because I want to draw the picture. So yeah, I'll erase this. Okay, you have 2 pictures. You have one, and of course I'm not going to draw, I'm just going to draw a stick figure. Okay, so that's one triangle, and you have the height, and this distance is 7 feet. Okay, and then you have another triangle with a flagpole, it looks like, or it looks like, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is, but whatever it is, it's 3 feet tall. So let's just draw a triangle. It's 3 feet tall, and the distance underneath is 4 feet. Okay, and of course you have these pictures already, so you don't need to draw them. You can take your notes right on your worksheet. The most important thing, this is what a proportion looks like. You know what it is, but you might forget what it's called. It's 2 fractions that are set equal to each other. And the most important thing to remember is wherever you start on one side of the proportion is where you have to start on the other side. So for instance, on the left side, I'm going to write down Becky's height first, which we don't know, so we have to call it H. And then on the right, on the bottom of the proportion on the left side, I'm going to write down the distance that they have in the triangle with Becky, which is 7. Okay, so this is important to see what I wrote down. The first thing I wrote down was Becky's height. So you see everything on this side is pertaining to Becky. So everything on this side has to be pertaining to the other triangle. This is Becky's height, and the bottom was Becky's distance. This was Becky's height, this was Becky's distance. So you see the height, you see the distance. So now when I come to this side, I can't put the 4 on top. I have to do the height first. I have to do the same thing, which is the corresponding, which is the corresponding side. Okay? And that's the most important thing. The most important thing when you're solving these problems is finding the corresponding sides, and I'll write that down after we finish solving it. So if I start off with the height on this triangle, when I get to the other side of the proportion, I have to start off with the height, okay? And if you look at the pictures, those sides correspond to each other. You can see that, right? Just like the distance, they correspond to each other. So you see they're on the bottom and the heights are on the top. You can't mix and match them, okay? Becky has to be on one side and the other object is on the other side. You can't mix and match those, okay? So that's important. Now, the easiest part, all you have to do is, some people like to say the fish method. I like to say cross multiply and then divide. So when I cross, I'm sorry, obviously you can't cross multiply those two. When you cross multiply, you get 21 because 3 times 7 is 21, and then you divide. So h equals 21 divided by 4. I don't have my calculator. 21 divided by 4, I believe, is 5 point. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. Oh, can't find my calculator. There it is. 21 divided by 4 equals 5.25. Okay? So 5.25 is your final answer. So I just cross multiply and then divide by the number that's left over. Some people like to use the fish method. You do the same thing. You multiply and then divide. But to me, this is less confusing. But whatever you like, you may do, as long as you know how to do it. Okay, let's go on. Oh, what I want to do is write down the second step. So if you remember, what was the first step? The first step was to set up a proportion. Okay, set up a proportion. The second step, find corresponding sides. And the first step and the second step kind of go together. It's part of setting up the proportion. And the third step is to cross multiply, then divide. Okay, cross multiply, then divide. So 3 simple steps. You set up the proportion, 2 fractions with the equal sign. You find the corresponding sides. You cross multiply and divide. Okay, so let's do number 2. Okay, number 2 says you have 2 triangles, and I like these type of problems for practice because it's like you have one triangle inside of another. So let me try to draw that. Okay, and then there's a little piece here. So the big triangle is 31.5 feet. That's the big triangle. And we don't know how tall it is. They called it H. Okay. And the little triangle, the height is 6.5. And the base is 9 feet. Right? And you're not drawing this because you have the picture. So now if we set up a proportion, let's try to find corresponding sides. If I looked at the height of the big triangle, we don't know what that is. We call it H. The base of the big triangle is 31.5. I'm going to change it to 31.5. The height of the small triangle, see how I went height base? So now for the small triangle, I have to go height base. Okay, the height is 6.5. That's the height right there. And the base is 9. That's the base right there. Okay, so all I'm going to do, all I'm going to do is cross multiply 31.5 times 6.5. 31.5, sorry, times 6.5, and then divided by 9. So I'm cross multiply, then I divide, and I get H equals 22.75. Okay, so that would be the height of the big triangle or the flagpole. And if you wanted to write that as a fraction, 75 cents is 3/4, right? So 75 cents is 3/4, 22 and 3/4. Okay. Let's go to number 3. Okay, number 3 says, let's see here. Number 3 says, how deep, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I haven't gone over my time. And I think I have, so I'm going to cut it off here, continue on the next video.